With the state of The Sims 4 right now and the terrible EA news, I've been thinking, what can I do to counter all that while still playing the game that I've sunk so much time and money into? Then it hit me. I'll build a home using only free Sims packs that's for a pansexual polyamorous throuple. So that's what we're doing today. I'm building this non-traditional home on the 40 by 30 Midtown Meadows lot in Newcrest. I wanted a good sized lot that we can fit multiple houses on. I also like that this area has a pond at the back. One of our Sims in this household likes fishing, and it's also down the road from a little neighborhood park area. Two of my main priorities for this video was to build with only free Sims content as to not give them any more of my money, and also make it for a household that the soon-to-be new owners of EA would absolutely despise. My other inspo for this was to have 3 houses that all share a big deck and yard space, so a sort of together yet separate housing setup. Again, going with another variation of the community-based living, co-housing sort of theme that I seem to love so much. I keep wanting to describe these sorts of builds I make as non-traditional, which is both inaccurate and accurate in some ways. It's inaccurate because communal living setups and shared housing is actually quite traditional for humans historically, as well as in many areas of the world today. However, these living arrangements are not super common where I'm from in the US and in many other Western countries too, at least in recent decades. So yeah, communal living or co-housing are probably more accurate overall, but if I say non-traditional, I'm not ignoring the other historical and cultural context of these types of living setups. It's just not the norm where I'm from and would be seen as alternative living for sure. Which is unfortunate, but that's where we're at right now. I do hope that we can work to change this narrative though overall. My channel is so tiny and I know I'm not making much of an impact on this topic, but at least I'm trying to do my own little part in my own little way to make these types of homes and relational structures seem less fringe. So if you have better words to describe these types of builds or other ideas for me to create, definitely let me know in the comments. Getting back to talking about what I'm actually building here, I decided to do a bit of terraforming on this lot because I wanted a big multi-level porch out the back that these 3 houses share. Plus, doing a bunch of terraforming isn't something I do a whole lot, and it can be difficult to blend in with the surrounding world when we can't terraform outside the individual lots, so it was a fun challenge for myself. I kept it somewhat simple by putting the house all on one flat raised level with a steep drop-off. Later, when I do the landscaping, I'll build up rocks along that perimeter to be a sort of cliff face retaining wall type of thing. Having one random hill popped up in this flat neighborhood would seem a bit weird to have occurred naturally, plus I didn't have the room on the lot to blend it in smoothly with the rest of the world. So instead I figured an intentionally built up house with a retaining wall would make more sense and would fit within the borders of this lot better. Now it may seem like I figured all this terraforming and house shell out so quickly and easily, but that is deceiving. That is not how it happened. It only looks that way because this is the second time I am building all of that. Initially, I struggled with figuring out the height for the ground and the shape of these homes. I finally got it all figured out, then my game crashed and I lost it all. So yeah, this was not as easy and quick for me to build as it may be looking right now. So do not believe everything you see online and definitely do not compare yourself to what people are presenting online. Easier said than done, I know. But just keep reminding yourself that you are never getting the full picture and it is not as simple as it may seem. Any of y'all who have been here for a while know I am not this quick of a builder. So yeah, I usually have like 15 to 20 hours of building and decorating footage, which I then cut down to like 30 minutes, plus way too many hours making my Sims that I show for like 2 minutes in a video that I do not even record. Then it takes me weeks to months to get it all edited and posted because I'm slow as hell. Yeah, I definitely do not have that dedicated grind mindset. I'm more of a distracted snail taking a waltz through the park. Love y'all for sticking with me though. I saw this house online that was raised up, sort of like this one is, that had a big gravel driveway at the front, so I was inspired to try something similar here. I don't usually incorporate many cars into my builds, but I thought I'd try it this time. So I made this gravel driveway thingy at the front. I know this isn't a popular opinion in the Sims community, but I don't want cars in The Sims 4. Not that I just don't prefer them or I don't care if they are added or not, like I actually do not want them in the game. I like not having them be a central thing to structure builds around in this game. I'm not a car person in real life, and they're just so bad on so many fronts. Environmentally, they're obviously worse than public transit, but also structuring our homes and cities around them makes them much less pedestrian friendly, which means we have less interesting and less social spaces for everyone. So yeah, I'm totally cool if we never get usable cars in this game. I would actually prefer it. I get the want for the realism of them for some people, and don't get me wrong, I need my car in real life to get around where I live, but still. I want to deal with cars as little as possible in real life, so I really do not need them coming into my games. All that said, I do put a car in this build just to switch things up. Now that the shell of the build is all set, it's time to figure out the floor plan. The center 2-story house will be for a single dad and his toddler, and the 2 single-story houses on the sides will be for the other 2 Sims in this throuple. I'll get into who they each are more when we work on their homes. The houses on the ends have 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, and then the center house has 2 bedrooms and 1.5 baths. Initially, I had these houses evenly divided based on what it looked like if they were separate houses, but that just wasn't working well with the spacing I needed to fit everyone in comfortably, especially for the house with the toddler. So instead, I shifted the walls and rooms so that these separate houses meshed more and felt like they were actually built to flow together, rather than them being completely separate houses that just happened to be attached. Besides sharing the deck and yard, all these houses have interior doors connecting them to each other so the Sims can easily travel between the houses. With those features and the puzzled together floor plan, this definitely feels more like an intentionally designed throuple home and not just townhouses they bought individually. Back to the exterior, I was thinking of doing some more fun colors for the siding, but the pack limits didn't give me many great options. So I went with green, cream, and stone, which do look quite nice together still. They're just not as funky, but don't worry, I make the interiors pretty colorful. Plus, most of the time the exteriors of our homes don't have as unique personalities as the interiors anyway. And I add some fun stuff at the end. But yeah, we definitely need more siding options for base game. Besides base game, the other packs that I use for this are either free currently, or they have been offered for free at some point, maybe for a limited time. So here's all the free packs I use for this build. Base game, jungle adventure, luxury party stuff, romantic garden, backyard stuff, my first pet stuff, desert luxe, blooming rooms, and the holiday celebration pack. Most of these I unfortunately paid for, though I was able to snag desert luxe and blooming rooms while they were free, and of course the holiday celebration pack. But if you were lucky enough to get all these while they were free, then this build will be full of free content for you to play with without giving EA any of your money. Yay! Although it is quite annoying to try to build with limited packs since there is no way to lock the build by filter so they don't reset every time you eyedrop or something. Having less options for building and decorating did make things go quicker. Now I'm kind of interested to try another pack build, maybe base game only or base game plus 1 or 2 other packs. It'll probably kill me a bit to limit myself, but it's also kind of a fun challenge. So if that interests you too, let me know what you'd like to see for a limited pack build, whether that's lot type, Sims household, build style, or even incorporating a specific color or item. Let's all brainstorm in the comments. Alright, let's get to work on the interiors. First up, we're doing the center house, which will have our single dad and his toddler daughter, so let me introduce you to them. This is Bran. He is a single dad with the big happy family aspiration. He's the one who likes fishing, so having the pond out back is a big plus for him. Since he's both outgoing and a foodie, I put him in the culinary career as a caterer. Bran's the kind of guy who seems to know and be friends with just about everyone. With him catering so many things, I'm sure he does get to know tons of Sims. Despite being a friendly, social butterfly, he is also gloomy. He's got that sunshine and rain cloud dynamic all within himself. Because of this, I had him like writing because I figured journaling would be a good hobby for him to have. He lives in this central house with his toddler daughter Anya, who is a charmer, just like her daddy. Although only Bran is officially Anya's parent, the other 2 Sims in this throuple are still also really involved with raising her. In fact, their house has a door in the living room by her toy area that leads directly into Mel's house. Then her bedroom is the connecting room between Bran and Zane's homes. I made sure to also put some of her toys in all of the houses, and they each have a tub for bath time too. I definitely imagine all of these Sims will frequently float in and out of all 3 of these homes. I love the golden yellow countertops and flooring in the kitchen. I don't think I've ever used that combo before, but I really like it. So I based the color theming of this whole house around those, along with that colorful tiled rug from Jungle Adventure. Brad has a lot of pride rep in his outfits if you check him out in cast, so I knew he'd want his house to be pretty colorful as well. There's lots of warm yellows with some pops of blue and pink in here. I also used a few of the rainbow decor items I found, like that awesome Pride Gallery wall that I put in the entryway, and a random rainbow fish that I hung above the TV. Usually a guy posing with a fish in a dating profile would be a no, but if I came across Bran in his colorful little outfits posing with that rainbow fish, I would definitely want to match with him. This man has green flags all around. Anya's room is fairly small and it has 2 doors leading into it, so spacing is a bit tight in here, but I was still able to fit in all the necessities and still make it cute. I did struggle a bit at first with trying to figure out the color scheme in here, but once I put in that wall mural from Jungle Adventure, it all started coming together. I quite like how those hot air balloon decals layered on top of the mural and extended it across the wall a bit more. They also look quite cute with a knitted pride flag that I hung by her bed too. So yeah, just a cute, colorful little room for our colorful little cutie. Bran's room and their full bathroom are both upstairs. Unfortunately, the walls for the roof stick through into the actual room for some reason, so I was stuck with that exterior stone texture on the walls. I ended up just leaning into it and made it a feature of the room here. They really do need to fix that though. I tied in the yellow that we have downstairs up here with this Jungle Adventure bed. This is another colorway that I don't believe I've ever used, but it is super cute in here. I wanted to give him a built-in wardrobe to break up that stone wall a bit. Those tall ones from base game were just what I was looking for, but oddly, it seems like they're slightly crooked on the sides. The left side looks straight when you have just one of them, but when you try to align 2 of them together, you can notice it's just a little wider at the top and a little narrower at the bottom. So bizarre. On the other stone wall section, I made it a spot to highlight a special piece of artwork. I'm thinking this is a piece one of his other partners made for him, or something sentimental like that. Bran is definitely a sentimental guy. He is also a busy toddler dad with depression, so I sprinkled in a few messy items here and there in his home. Not too much, he definitely tries to be neat, but it just gets away from him sometimes, and that's okay. I think Mel and Zane definitely help with tidying up for him too. The perks of having neat partners living next to you. I wish. My partner and I live just the 2 of us, and we are both messy, so this Sims house is like a dream level neatness, even with the little piles of messes here and there. Moving over to the cream colored house on the right side of the lot now. This one is Zane's. He is a hopeless romantic who wants as many fulfilling sexual and or romantic connections throughout his lifetime as he's lucky enough to have. With Zane's interests in dancing, cooking, fitness, and photography, it is no wonder that they have an easy time finding and maintaining many relationships. His emotional state can be a bit erratic at times, but we've all got our flaws. Thankfully, he has plenty of loving people around to help balance him out whenever he needs it. Zane works as a freelance writer, and this shared hobby of writing is one of the things he and Bran connect on. They also both like cooking, so Mel and Anya are definitely kept well fed. I mean, I like to cook too, but I am not gonna complain if I get to sit back and watch if these 2 hotties with the hots for each other wanna whip me up a meal. Zane's house is not as full rainbow as Bran's is, but it does still have plenty of pops of bright colors. I went with the pansexual pride flag colors here with the blues, the yellows, the pinks. I really like those turquoise retro appliances that I put in the kitchen, so I leaned into the mid-mod vibes for this house. I initially thought making this color scheme work would be a bit harder than it was. It turned out that there were quite a few sneaky pan pride pieces that really tied this house together. like the jungle adventure tapestry behind the couch, those leaning picture frames above the mantle, and even the vertical planter from Blooming Rooms. It worked out better than I expected. I kept wanting to use that pride bed in one of these homes, but it just was a bit too much each time. Maybe Anya can have the single bed version of it in her room once she gets bigger. Instead, I went with this pink base game bed. Zane is a romantic sim, so I definitely wanted his bedroom to be a bit moodier than the rest of the house. So when I saw these pink and purple jazz paintings, I knew that was the vibe we needed to go with in here. The bed looks a bit basic with that really thin squared off headboard, so to make it more sophisticated looking, I built in a custom wall length headboard out of some upper kitchen cabinets. These instantly made this room look more adult and intentionally designed than before. I then used those as a surface to put little decor pieces on to further the romantic vibes in here. We've got a collection of books, some candles, an ice bucket with a nectar bottle, and even some body wipes for freshening up post woohoo. Yeah, Zane is a very considerate partner and pulls out all of the stops. Also, you'll see that I put in some nail polish on his nightstand. This is a nod to him and Bran doing their nails with Anya. If you check them out in cast, you'll see they both have their nails painted in all of their outfits. I love the idea of these two sitting down with Anya and painting their nails together. Adorable. So I had to make sure to fit in their nail polish collection somewhere. Moving on to our last house now, the screen one on the left side of the lot belongs to Mel. She's an active goofball who wants to be friends with everyone. She's also a lady who loves to eat, so the fact that both of her men love cooking means she is in heaven since they've always got something delicious for her to munch on. Although she doesn't do much of the cooking, she is one for baking and mixology, so guests at their cookouts are going to be well taken care of with this throuple. She is also into fitness, I'm thinking trail running and weightlifting specifically, and she works at a local outdoor recreation store. She's got bright green hair, but her outfits are pretty neutral overall. So I went with a similar idea for her home, that same bright green paired with warm neutrals. She needed some pride wrap in her house too, so I hung up that pride picture above her mantle. It seemed a bit out of place though with the rest of the colors that were in there so far, so I put in a few pops of purple to give this space a bit more unexpected color and help tie in that lovely artwork. I kept with the modern boho sort of feel in her bedroom as well. I didn't want this to be too green and brown though, so I did hang up that pride collage wall thingy, as well as some of the papel picado above the love seat by her wardrobe. There's definitely a strong cohesive aesthetic throughout her home, but there's just enough unexpected pieces and colors that personalize it and keep it from looking too generic. Out back, we have this massive multi-level deck, which is the real star of these homes. The lower right deck is the outdoor dining area with a nice big table where they can fit all of their partners and friends. With 3 very social adults in this home, they're going to need all the space they can get when they invite all of their people over. The upper section between the 3 houses has the grill area. None of the grills were really working with the counters, so I ended up tucking that steel one into the cabinets to make it look built in. I did test it and it is still functional like that, so yay! One of Mel's hobbies is mixology, so I wanted to include a bar out here since there wasn't any room for it in her home. It didn't fit in with the outdoor kitchen, so I put it up against the wall near the dining table. You can't put bar stools on it like this, but it is still totally usable. Most home bars aren't going to have seating and would be set up like this anyways, so it's all good. I'm sure Mel would like to have the seating, but sometimes we can only be as extra as our constraints allow. It is still a bitchin' bar and extravagant outdoor space overall. I mean, this deck is bigger than some houses. These bitches are ballin' out back here with their 3 incomes. Love that for them. The lower left deck has a spacious seating area. Anya has her outdoor toys back here as well. This is a nice spot for the adults to kick back and relax together while still being able to keep an eye on the little one. I wanted to squeeze as much into this yard as I possibly could, so I flattened out the very back and put in those boulders for the retaining wall as close to the house as I could. The rocks and plants kept wanting to jump up to the upper level, so it was a bit finicky to try to place everything just so, but it was well worth it in the end. Having this raised up home with an overgrown retaining wall isn't something I'm used to building, but it does look pretty cool if I do say so myself. To keep it from looking too repetitive, I used both the mossy and bare versions of this long boulder, and I also sized down some of them to tuck into the bigger ones to give them more variation. Then I just repeated that process the whole way around the house. I wanted these Sims to be able to easily access this lower level of the yard, so I built some custom stairs down to it. Now, for some reason, when I tested downloading this lot from the gallery, it kept messing up the terrain that connects the upper stair landing. I had wanted to keep that part between the decks grassy and I had nice terrain paint on it, but functionally it just wasn't working when pulling it from the gallery. So off camera I had to go back in and make that a proper flooring section so that the stairs would download and work properly. I did fill it in with the gravel flooring so that it sort of matches the gravel terrain paint I use around the rest of the lot. It's not quite as cute, but sometimes that's just how it goes. It is still a gorgeous yard. As you can tell, I put all the thought and prime real estate into the deck, so the space left over for anything else was a bit limited and awkward to use. I knew I wanted a bonfire, and the only one I had with the limited packs I was using was that huge one, so that took up a lot of room. I also definitely wanted a hot tub. Thankfully, we have a base game one that matched really well with this house. I tried fitting in some monkey bars, but they seemed like they'd be quite treacherous at the top of the stairs, and I didn't want that huge bonfire so close to the house, so I got rid of them. Anya can't play on them yet anyways, and when she gets big enough, there's a bunch of them on the other end of the block that she can use. It's also kind of nice to see a house with kids that you can tell they have children, but they don't let it take over their entire house just by default. There's space for the kid out back, and she'll have plenty of fun out here, but this yard is definitely geared for the adult enjoyment. Last up, I'm working on the landscaping. I could only push those boulders back into the cliffside so far before they popped up to the next level, so it left this odd gap. I filled it in by layering in a bunch of bushes along it. The trees on the upper yard, although they looked nice, were going to get in the way and be annoying for gameplay, so I moved them off to the side and kept that middle space pretty open. To bring in more of that color this family loves so much, I layered in a bunch of flowers around the boulders. To pick which ones to use, I just looked around the surrounding world to see what plants and colors were used out there and replicated those in their yard. This will help the lot fit in a bit more with the neighborhood, even though they have a uniquely styled yard. Doing all this multi-level landscaping was really making me wish that all of these landscaping items didn't auto jump up to the highest level, or that you could at least turn off that function to place specific things in more custom positions. I don't even need the full 360 rotation and height settings that you can get from something like Tool Mod, just don't jump things around when I have move objects on. Let me raise and lower it myself, and let me scoot it in as close to another object as I want. I think that's a simple ask. I know I can do all that and more with Tool, but that just seems so tedious and complicated, and I do not have the bandwidth to try to learn that right now. Also, I know if I ever do learn it, I'll be tooling the fuck out of everything in my builds, and it takes too long to make stuff as it is, so I do not need to add in any extra time. At that point, I think I'd be getting close to the Sims 3 level build lengths, and I cannot go back to that. I know so many people love building in that game, and I did too at the time. But damn, it took way too long. By the time I'd be finished with the house, I'd be way too tired to actually start any gameplay. There's just too many decisions to make. Could there be more freedom in the customization in this game? Yeah, for sure. But no way in hell do I want to go back to the color wheel and the endless matchy-matchy swatches for every item. I just cannot handle all of that again. I feel like I'm in the minority with that opinion, so let me know if you agree. Okay, that's about it for the speed build. Let's take a tour so we can see how this colorful queer home came together in the end. Here we are at our finished Throuple home. I did not show off the front yard like at all in the speed build, so here it is now. I hung up some rainbow string lights along the roof, and you know this is the type of household that would absolutely have a pride flag hanging out front. I wish we had a flagpole version of these pride flags. Sims team, come on, let's get that in the game for Pride Month, please. The inside should look pretty similar to what you saw in the speed build. I didn't change a whole lot, just put in the wallpapers. You didn't see the bathroom, so here's a quick peek at Mel's, a cute purple one that I had to base on this adorable pride art since I hadn't gotten to fit it in anywhere else. I also gave her a frog, obviously, plus a figurine of one on the mantle. She has this cute pride entryway too. Here is Bran's cheery home with that amazing rainbow fish on proud display. I also decided Anya loves rodents, so she's got a hamster growth chart in here too. I added in a few minimal decorations in the kitchen for our chef. He needs to save all the counter space he can get. Up here is his finished bedroom. I really like these dark teal walls in here. It gives this room a much more moody, masculine feel while still being quite cheery. He does have a shower tub combo up here for Anya, but I'm thinking they're probably going to use Mel and Zane's tubs more often. They also have a more convenient half bath by the front door downstairs. Over here is Zane's entryway. It's giving pan-masculine vibes. In there is his little camera too. I went with darker, sort of hot cocoa colored walls to tone down all the bright colors a bit and give it an elevated masculine touch. I also swapped the kitchen counters to match Mel's cause I thought that made more sense, and it also cut down on the different objects used on this lot. He's also got a little lunchbox in the kitchen for Anya, and her hamster lives in here too. He is too much of a softie to say no to her, so it lives with him. He's got a simple bathroom with a funky pop art painting. I went with a dark plum on the walls in the bedroom. Mixing in the dark browns and purples with the bright pinks and yellows gives this room a fun yet romantic feel, and I love that combo. Who says woohoo has to be so serious? Make it a little fun, make it a little silly. Come on. Moving on to the main feature of this house, the backyard, here is the grilling area. Apparently you get a plate of grilled fruit when you download this lot, which is on brand for this household, so I love that those got uploaded too. I think this center part where I had to put in the flooring makes sense and it looks fine. Like, you wouldn't know it was a glitch fix if I didn't mention it. It's not what I wanted initially, but it looks totally fine. I also had to do this weird bump out with the stairs to get them to work for some reason, and it won't put railing on that section. So I just put in this debug arbor thingy over it so people won't be falling off onto the rocks. This side of the yard has our cozy hot tub nook. This would be quite a romantic date spot in the evenings. Then in the opposite corner is the fire pit. This bonfire is definitely oversized for this little area, but it's all we had. Although this will be the perfect sized fire for Mel and her girlfriends to dance around naked and scare off all the evil EA spirits. So you gotta look on the bright side when you can. Alright, you've seen it all now. This build was filled with fun challenges with the pack limitations, terrain manipulation, and unique household it was all made for. Creating the house and family on the block that gets all the fussy neighbors in a huff was quite fun, and I'm all in on doing this again. I'm already thinking about a married couple who live in separate households. Maybe Bob and Eliza? Could be perfect. Base game only, possibly? They are part of my namesake for this channel, and I have yet to do a build for them, so it's about time. But yeah, let me know all of your other ideas for lots and households to create that would get horrible people like the new EA owners in a tizzy. I am all ears. If you made it this far and I haven't scared you off yet, definitely give this video a like and subscribe for more of all of this. Come on, you know you'll like it here. But if not, you can always unsub. That's okay too. I love you anyways. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, be kind to yourself today, and I'll see you next time.